Welcome to Inside the Post-Dispatch. This is Benjamin Hockman, sports columnist for my hometown paper, and this is pretty cool. I love this podcast that we do here at the Post-Dispatch because, of course, you've read the stories. Now the podcast takes you behind the stories, inside the story, behind the scenes. You get to find out more about what went into it and maybe some more about the subject of the story. And I'm honored to be a part of this one today. This is going to be a pretty cool one. I'm honored to be joined by Jake Bain, and hello, Jake.
Hey, how you doing, Mr. Hockman? It's
I'm
great
doing
to be
great.
here. Thank you very much for having me.
Yeah, man. So you listening might not know who Jake Bain is, but in a short minute or two you will know, and hopefully you will be inspired and hear this really cool story about a great St. Louis athlete with a cool story to tell. So basically, I'm a columnist, and I love to find stories in town that maybe some people haven't heard before. And Coach John Merritt, a great gentleman, the coach of John Burroughs, and I were talking, and I was able to find out about Jake. And Jake is awesome. He is a running back, and the reason we're doing this today is we just arrived from John Burroughs School because Jake just signed his letter of intent to play for the Indiana State Sycamores.
Absolutely.
I'm in the presence of a sycamore.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. It's a very exciting time.
I mean, I was there. It was such a cool thing. I mean, you were surrounded by your family, your friends, all these people, and probably one of the best moments of your life.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's definitely up there.
So for those who don't know, Jake is a running back at John Burroughs School as a sophomore. Again, this is mind-boggling to me. As a sophomore, he runs for 255 yards in the state championship game, scores 3 touchdowns, and wins it all. They win state, on top of the world. And continued to play football, was named captain junior year, named captain senior year. A leader of that team. He's been a fixture at Burroughs since he was a kid because his grandfather is the great coach Jim Lemon, who's in the Missouri Sports Hall of Fame. So I wrote this story about Jake for Thursday's Post-Dispatch. I'm pretty proud of this piece, and captured his whole career, and now, of course, heading to Indiana State. And you're openly gay.
Absolutely.
Out of the closet. I thought that was really cool, and I've always wanted to write a story, Jake, about an athlete who kicks butt on the field and is confident and proud of who he is. And you went through an amazing journey, and I think it's really cool. So that's why we're sitting here in the beautiful studios at the Post-Dispatch office. Let's talk about football and what it means to your life, and how I guess that was probably your first love.
Yeah. Okay. So I mean, from as long as I can remember, I've been watching football at Burroughs collegiately and in the professional level. Football it's just been a big part of my life. I mean, everyone in my family has played. My uncles have played. My grandfather played at Dartmouth. He was the captain there at Dartmouth. So
My safety school.
so
I don't know if you knew that.
So football has definitely just been it's always just been a part of my life. I mean, my grandfather, like you mentioned before, he coached at Burroughs for 40 plus years. He won 8 state titles there. So it was just really kind of fluid for me to move into football. I grew up actually playing soccer up until about 4th grade. And then my mom was trying to keep me out of football for as long as possible. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure she could tell by the way I was playing on the soccer field, probably being a little too rough than most soccer players should be. I'm sure she could tell it was only just a matter of time. But so about 4th grade, that's when I finally asked her. I knew I needed to wait a little bit, but I asked her in 4th grade. I was like, Mom, can I please play football now? And She finally caved in after a few conversations, and I just kind of took off from there. Started playing with the Chesterfield Bears.
Yeah.
I was actually playing. I played up a year. My first year, because I didn't have enough spots on the 4th grade team. So I played on the 5th grade team my first year, and I just fell in love with it right away. I mean, just the beauty of the game.
Yeah.
It's such a graceful game, but at the same time, it's such a physical game, and it requires so much teamwork and so much. So much just like camaraderie between your teams. So I mean, it was just a great experience from the very beginning for me.
That's awesome. And I interviewed numerous people over at John Burroughs School to get to know more about Jake, and it was funny to hear the quotes. Andy Abbott, the head of school, says, "Oh, Jake was astronomically ahead of the other athletes, even 2 or 3 years older than he was." I mean, I joked in the story, you came out of the womb wearing a John Burroughs helmet, ready to go.
Probably did.
And so, of course, you went to Burroughs, and like I said earlier, as a sophomore, most sophomores don't even make the even great sophomores don't even make their varsity team. You, of course, make the team, start for the team, and in the state championship game, you have the game of your life.
Yes, sir.
I wasn't there. A lot of our listeners to the podcast weren't there. I mean, describe that game, that scene.
I mean, that was a once in a lifetime experience. I mean, it's funny. I'd been the water boy the past year, a couple of years before that. So Burroughs has had a very extensive history of going to the Dome. And that before me, the running back before me was John Moten, who's now at Northwestern, and the running back before him was Ezekiel Elliott. So I got in seventh grade. All the way from 7th grade to my sophomore year, I watched these two amazing Big Ten running backs. Yeah. One's now obviously in the NFL doing great things with the Cowboys. So, but unfortunately, every year they made it to the Dome, they didn't win the big game. They weren't able to capture that state championship. So, being in the locker room, seeing those guys so heartbroken, I knew I really didn't want to have that experience. So my whole sophomore year, it was just. We were just chiming in on the idea that we got to make it to state again, and we got to get it done this year. So walking into Edward Jones Dome, it was actually, I think, the last year that they played the games at the Edward Jones Dome. Walking in there and coming off the team bus, it's a surreal experience. Our Coach Merritt, he said it's okay to look up and just look up at the rafters and take it all in for a quick minute or two, and so that's definitely what we did. We walked in there. We actually got to go into the players' locker rooms, and so seeing names like Steven Jackson written up right there. I mean, it was incredible. But so I mean, we got there about 3 hours before the game, just so that we had enough time to kind of soak it all in and realize the accomplishment that it was to just get to this point. Sure. But we knew from being there the past couple of years that we had to get it done. So I mean, from the very first play of the game, it was a whole team effort. I mean, I honestly believe that I had the best offensive line in the state that year. I wouldn't be able to rush for 255 yards if I didn't have that offensive line. Sure. So I mean, it was an incredible experience. It was a great team victory. Our defense held them to 6 points. And our offense was able to get things going. I think we had like 33 points, something like that. I had 3 touchdowns, so it was an incredible team victory. Just that holding up that trophy, finally getting that state trophy once we won the game is an unbelievable experience. I honestly, it's very hard to put into words that just a rush of emotion that came over us when that clock hit 0. Yeah. And all the fans were going crazy, and everyone's running out on the field. And all I could think about is like that when we're gonna try on those rings and we're gonna put those rings on. So it was an amazing experience, and it was something that I definitely will never forget.
Surreal. I mean, it's surreal for an athlete to get to experience that, and some of the greatest athletes never did or never will, and you did. And so here we are. It's that was the 2015 fall of 2015. So now we're heading into the summer of 2016. Jake Bain is the running back, sophomore on the state champions, on top of the sports world, but you weren't fully yourself. You're the most conspicuous person on campus. You're big, strong, tall, popular, but even in plain sight, part of you was hidden.
Right.
So what happened that summer?
So that summer, I've been struggling with my sexuality for probably around 2 years to that point. I knew that I wasn't straight, but I wasn't sure what I was, and honestly, I wasn't. I don't know if I was very educated at the time about what sexuality was. So I was definitely very confused. It was a very confusing time in my life. Summer comes, going into my junior year, I think I just came to my senses that I really think I am gay, and I know that I don't want to be the person who has to stay in the closet their whole life and is afraid to be who they want to be. That's just not who I've been. That's not really how I wanted to live out my life. So I definitely struggled with how I was going to come out for a long time. I didn't know who to tell first. I didn't know who I could trust. I didn't know how people would react, really, because, I mean, I've heard so many different situations on bad experiences of coming out, good experience of coming out. And I think it would have been different if I hadn't been the athlete that I am, and if I hadn't had kind of the spotlight on me at that time, especially after just winning the state championship. I mean, usually when you think of the running back for a state championship team, you think of this really macho, manly person, and I think part of me is that guy, and I think but there's also another part of me that people had never really seen. So I told my closest friend about towards the end of summer of my junior year, and I sat him down and I said, "Hey man, look, I know that I want you to be the first person to tell. I need to tell you that I'm gay, and this doesn't change anything about me. This doesn't mean that I'm not still the Jake Bain that you knew before I told you. This is just something that I feel like I need to get off my chest, and I need to start living the life that I know that I want to live, and I need to stop hiding from who I was. Not only for me, but also for I've always kind of been the type of person who wants to kind of make everything as best as possible for everyone else around me. So I wanted to do it for the kids that weren't as confident as I was, who were afraid to come out because of what people would think of them. I wanted them to see that if this athlete, if this football player, this future Division I football player can be gay, then it's totally okay for them to come out too and be who they want to be. And I just wanted to be a voice, I think, for my community, because I don't think there are enough voices, especially not in the athletic world, that kind of coexists with being gay. I mean, really, the only people I can really think of right now are Michael Sam, who have actually been openly gay and played the sport of football. So I think it was definitely a big decision for me to make. I knew there was going to be some consequences that came along with it. I knew I would definitely hear a lot of hate from people. But it was something that I really truly felt like I needed to do.
And we'll get to this a little later in the podcast about the speech that Jake gave, and it's one of the most inspirational things I've ever seen, to be honest. And you talked about how you want to be there for other people just like your friends were there for you. Well, sure enough, 5 people from your school after your speech reached out to you privately and said that they were gay as well, but they never felt comfortable telling anyone until they heard you give this speech. And
right.
We'll get to that in a moment. That was senior year. But junior year, here we are. Word is spreading around the St. Louis football community that the great Jake Bain, the championship running back, is a gay man. And your teammates accepted you with open arms, and, of course, your coach and your family and everybody in your John Burroughs community. But once those games happened, tell us what happened there.
Yeah, so going into the season, we were poised and ready to kind of have another great season. We had a lot of guys that were very crucial on that 2015 state team that had left us, so we knew we were gonna have to fill some spots. But I think we were definitely confident going into the season. So kind of got to about the first or second game, and by that time, word had really started to spread around St. Louis. I mean, it's a small town. People definitely hear things fast. So, especially in the independent schools. So, word started getting around to other kids that I was gay, and so I think that I kind of placed a target on myself by coming out, especially right around the start of football season. But I definitely thought that I honestly. I don't think I would have done it any other way. I think I wanted to use football as a platform for myself to kind of show people that, hey, like, yes, this guy's gay, but look what he's also being able to do right now. So, yeah, kind of the game started, and I don't think I really realized it at first. I thought, like, there'd be a time where I would get tackled and I'd hear, oh, you're so gay, and I really didn't think it was directed at me at first. I mean, I'd always heard people kind of use those slurs to kind of put people down in the first place, just kind of in general. So I didn't think of it much, but about the fourth or fifth time it happened, I started to realize that, oh wow, these people are talking to me, and I don't think I realized that it had gotten around that fast. I mean, I knew that because I only really told a few people directly to them, and I kind of knew that word would spread, but I didn't. It spread like wildfire. I didn't know it spread that fast. So I had people during the game. I'd be at the bottom of a pile and. Excuse my language, but they would say, "Stay down, you fag." They would say things like that.
It's unbelievable.
So it was definitely a tough time. I mean, at this time, I'm a 17-year-old kid.
Right.
I'm trying to. I've just now come out. I'm trying to kind of figure everything out at this time, and it was definitely tough. I mean, with all the pressures that are already put on me, just because of the football season.
Right.
We're coming off a state championship season. Everyone is expecting us to do great things again, and so with those pressures, along with the pressure of now I'm having to deal with people coming at me and attacking me because of my sexuality, it's like, wow, this is not what I expected. But it was definitely it forced me to grow up really fast. Mm-hmm. I could have said, all right, I can't take this. I can't handle the people who are gonna call me names and make fun of me because of my sexuality. So I mean, I could have tried to take it back and say, oh, I was just a phase, things like that. Mm-hmm. And I think, unfortunately, that happens to a lot of people. I think people, once they come out to a few people, they realize that they didn't get the reaction that they expected, and it kind of forces them to go back into the closet. And I thought that if I had done that, I think I kind of would have been almost playing devil's advocate. Mm-hmm. My whole purpose of this was to kind of be a voice for the voiceless, of the people who didn't feel comfortable coming out. So I felt like it was a tough decision to make, but I felt like I needed to kind of be that person who was willing to kind of put themselves on the line for the greater cause of kind of getting more equality for people of my community.
Right, and in a way, you're just living your life. You're being 17. You're being a football player. But now, as we look back, and hopefully the story in a small way will help it. Just the idea you're somewhat of a trailblazer. You were setting an example for other people that in many regards. And the one I was going to say is that a big, strong football player can be gay because there are gay people everywhere in our society. Right. It's how society is.
Exactly.
And one of the things that was touching to me was that. One player texted you and said that he had grown up. He had different a mindset about gay people until he found out that you were gay.
Right. Yeah. Very. A teammate that I'd actually played with for a year in 8th grade. He's going on now. He's gonna play D1 football. He's a very great kid. But after he found out that I was gay, he reached out to me and he was like, "Wow, man! Like, I honestly had my own stereotypes placed on what I thought gay people were like, and it's because," and he explained to me, this is what I think a lot of people kind of have experiences with, is that he explained to me that he had never really had any interactions with gay people, so he never really knew what they were like, and he honestly thought that they were so much different than other people, and that they were the general stereotypes that people like to place on them. So I think it was kind of an eye-opener to him once he realized that, wow, like, I've been playing with this kid for a long time, playing against him, playing with him. He's a great athlete, and he can also be gay. And so it's like, I think he the way he described it to me was that it was just like a whole eye-opening experience for him, that he never realized that there were people, athletes, football players especially, who could be gay and who didn't act any different than the way he acted. I think once he realized that I'm in no way different than him, I'm still the same very athletic, very outgoing person that he knew before he knew I was gay. Mm-hmm. I think that kind of changed his mindset on things, and so I think that was pretty special.
And that's why I hope in sports, and it'll happen eventually, but I hope that someday the best, someone in the top tier, right, a LeBron, a right, Tom Brady, who is gay, does what you did in the St. Louis high school level, on a national or international level.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, at the worst moments, you were getting anonymous text messages
Right.
from people around the St. Louis community.
Right.
You're sitting in your bed and you're getting a text, and it's like a sucker punch. These people saying terrible, vile, homophobic slurs to you.
Right.
I can't even fathom that. I mean, just the other day, someone tweeted at me and said like, "Hey Benjamin, you suck at writing," and it my point being is like a very simple whatever, but that bothered me.
Right. Exactly.
That was just some little thing. I can't imagine
Right.
what the 17-year-old student has to put up with, went through, and you persevered through it. And what I'm saying is, God, can you imagine if there would be, let's say LeBron was able to say, you know what, I'm going to do this on an NBA level.
Right.
Imagine how many other people would say, wow, I liked him yesterday. He's the same dude today, still
Exactly.
awesome today. Man, I that day will have to come at some point, right?
You know, and I think what people don't realize is that I think there's definitely already been that person. I think that person just wasn't able to come out at the time.
Right, yeah, always got, yeah, exactly.
So, I mean,
Yeah.
it's once people, like you said, once people see that face that everybody knows, that everybody kind of already has perceptions about, like being a great athlete, or I mean, it could be the president of the United States for all we know. And anybody who is in some kind of very powerful position where everyone loves them, and then all of a sudden they realize, oh wow, this person's also gay. I think that's what's gonna change a lot of people's minds. I think it's just the getting to know someone who's gay, and it's the experience of seeing someone who's openly gay, and not the way that it's I mean, usually when you see in a movie a gay character, it's the very stereotypical gay character. It's who everyone usually who hasn't experienced gay people have perceived to be.
Right.
And obviously there's all types of people on the spectrum, and that's why it's a spectrum. That's why it can be different. You can have a very feminine gay person, or you can have a very masculine gay person, like I am. So I think once people realize that there really isn't anything that separates themselves between being gay other than who people choose to love, once they realize that, I think that'll really start to change the perception that people have.
And again, Jake, we were talking about, I use the word trailblazer in your world, and the speech that I mentioned, I want to hear about how that happened. Basically, from my end of it, it was National Coming Out Day was coming up,
Right.
and Burroughs had an assembly, and what happened next was captured on YouTube and you know moved me, and surely people that will click on the YouTube and watch it, it'll move them. But how did this come about, Jake?
Yeah. So this past summer, we actually have a club at Burroughs called Spectrum, which is kind of the LGBTQ plus club at Burroughs, where basically it's just a group where we can get all the members of the LGBT community and also all the allies that are in the community, and just get together and kind of just discuss certain topics going around the world, going around the United States, and ways to make Burroughs a better, more safe community than it already is. So yeah, so this summer I decided to apply for the leadership role at that club, and I got the position, and so we had planned, we wanted to do something special for Coming Out Week. So throughout the week we've been having we had kids were allowed to submit short speeches to us, and then we would have someone read them off. Like, they could be anonymous if they wanted, or if someone wanted to go up there and give the speech, they could. So I'm pretty sure mine was the first one that wasn't spoken anonymously. So I had the last speech, and I really wanted to. I think it was a time where I had been out, but I hadn't really like gotten up and told people, other than the few people that I had told in the very beginning. So I think it was the right time for me to kind of get up in front of a lot of people and kind of just open up and express myself. And I wanted to, there were certain points I wanted to get across throughout that speech. And I think the main focus behind it was if I could reach even if it was one kid, if I could reach one kid who was struggling with the things that I had struggled with, whether it was depression because you don't want to come out because you're afraid of what people are going to say, or even if you already are out and you get a lot of people that say really awful things to you, I just wanted to let them know that I would be in their corner no matter what. So I mean, I honestly throughout my Burroughs career, even before I came out, I probably have written 5, 6, 7 of speeches that were similar to this one. But I mean, I never felt like it was the right time. I always kind of went back and forth between whether or not I wanted to come out. But I think this was definitely the right time for me. So, I got up there in front of 600 people, and it was definitely scary for me. Being able to just kind of completely open up and be raw with people and tell them. I was basically telling them my whole life story the past few years. So it was tough, but it was definitely something that I don't regret, and it was something that I was very happy with. It was really nice for me to be able to go back and after I gave the speech, I wasn't sure how it'd be taken by the community, but as the minute I ended the speech, I got a standing ovation. And so that let me know that the people really listened to what I was saying, and what really touched me was after the speech was given, the number of faculty that came up to me, the number of students and friends that came up to me and just let me know that they had my back and that they were supporting me no matter what. That really was a special moment for me, because it was just kind of like a culmination of everything that I was trying to get accomplished. And what was really special for me was kind of what you alluded to earlier was the kids that came to me afterwards, the kids who were afraid to come out and who were in the closet, and to be able to hear their stories and to be able to know that I was able to instill some confidence in them, confidence they didn't have before, and that I was able to let them know that that I had their back and that I wasn't going to let anything happen to them if and when they decided to come out. It was that for me that was really let me know that I did the right thing, and that like I said before, I mean that this has just kind of been my whole goal of throughout this whole process of coming out, was so that I could help the other people that weren't as confident as I was. And so being able to kind of give people some guidance, give people like I hope that once I leave Burroughs, that people are able to kind of see that I've laid sort of a platform for people who are able to come out and aren't afraid to be who they want to be, and that they see that now if this kid can do it, then so can I. So
right, and that and for me, just getting to know you and getting to know the people around you, the idea of you as a role model, and an idea of like you'll go on, you're going to play football at Indiana State,
right,
and you'll go on for many years. You want to be a teacher and a coach, which I think is awesome. And but the idea is that this happened, right? This happened in 2016, 2017 in St. Louis, and I hope that people can refer to it in the future, that people could say, oh, remember that courageous thing the kid at Burroughs, Jake Bade, did back in 2016, and it almost becomes like a point of reference.
Right.
And then, of course, the running back at a different school might be like there might be a kid, and it doesn't even have to be a sports athlete. It could be anybody. It could be a student hears about your story, and they think, man, he went through it, and look at him. He's never been happier. He's got an awesome boyfriend. He's going to college.
Right.
And most importantly, you're just happy with being Jake.
Exactly.
And then hopefully that student can be like, you know what, I'll follow his lead.
Right.
And it's not always going to be easy.
Right.
But the end result is pretty dang awesome.
Exactly.
And here you are. And I mentioned Indiana State. Today was the big day. We were over there at John Burroughs School earlier. You signed your letter of intent. Your family was there. Hunter, your boyfriend, was there. Your friends, teammates, coaches.
Right.
I mean, just put into words that experience.
I mean, it was honestly a culmination of all of the hard work, all of the countless hours that I spent traveling over throughout the summers to go to different camps and different colleges and stuff like that. So it was honestly just an experience for me to be able to realize that all the hard work that I put in really was a payoff. And it's just such a. And Indiana State is such an amazing school, and honestly, I can't thank them enough for giving me this opportunity to be able to live out my dreams. Because I mean, for as long as I can remember, my dream has been to play Division I college football, and so today, just getting it signed and be official, it was a great experience. I mean, it was very emotional. It was a time where I was able to kind of reflect on my journey throughout my football career. I mean, starting off playing at Chesterfield football all the way to winning the state championship, and now to being able to go out and live out my dreams at Indiana State. Honestly, it's definitely one of the greatest days of my life. It's incredible.
That's very, very cool. And to be able to share it with your community.
Exactly.
And for me just to be a fly on the wall watching it, I was proud of you, proud of everybody around you too.
Right.
And that now you're off to college. I mean, is it kind of sunk in that like you're all grown up, but you're headed to college? like this whole, I mean, Burroughs has been your life.
Right.
Like you said, you're at the camp as a kid. You're giving out water to Ezekiel Elliott or whomever it was, and now you've played at Burroughs. You've won the state championship. You've come out, of course. You've won accolades. You've signed to play at college. And now that's going to be in your rear view mirror.
I know.
Has that sunk in yet?
I honestly don't think it has. I don't think I really truly understand the situation I'm in until I kind of leave Burroughs. I think once I graduate in the summer, I think and once I get up to Indiana State, I think that's when it'll start to kick in and be like, wow, this is really changing. This is a big part of my life right now that I'm having to leave behind. But it's also another chapter that I'm ready to open up. And it's kind of just, I've been able to accomplish everything that I think I've wanted to accomplish throughout Burroughs. And so I think this is definitely, I couldn't think of a better time, and I couldn't think of a better place I would like to spend my next 4 years in Indiana State.
Well, I appreciate this, Jake Bain. It's been an honor to tell your story and share it with our readers and listeners. And, of course, you're listening to Inside the Post-Dispatch, this fantastic podcast that Gary Harrelson and the gang put on here for the Post-Dispatch readers. You can find us online. You can find all the podcasts at stltoday.com/podcast. You probably could have guessed that was the URL, but yeah, stltoday.com/podcast. Of course, we're on iTunes, Google Play, and basically anywhere you find a podcast. I bet we're on there. So give us a look, because so many journalists here tell great stories and tell powerful stories, and we were honored to tell a powerful story today, that of Jake Bain.